Everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tammy's Takes. This episode will be discussing motherhood versus womanhood. But before I get into the episode, you guys know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this video so that we can all be a part of the community and have these very important conversations. Of course, this is my take on this particular topic. So I want to say that first and foremost, my opinion. But I also like hearing others' opinions about this as well. So as I stated before, please comment, but also comment with respect. I do not want this channel to be a channel that is going to spew back and forth arguments and to be combative. I just really want to open up conversation about certain topics. I know that a lot of the topics that I may be bringing may be circulating around social media, but for my community, I want us to respect each other's differences, even if we disagree. And I want us to learn from each other. Something about this topic that I may not understand, I am very open to learning about a little bit more about it. So in recent months, especially in the climate of our country, when it comes to women's reproductive rights, motherhood has been a topic that a lot of people are discussing, and not just motherhood, but how it is exclusive to womanhood? Like, are you less of a woman if you don't birth children? Now, in my opinion, the answer is no. If you are someone who has a uterus, because I want to be sensitive to those that are trans women who may not be able to birth children but will but are considered women, but also those that are trans men who have uteruses that don't present themselves as feminine, and so they still can get pregnant though if they still have their female parts. So I want to be definitely respectful to that community, but I don't believe that motherhood and womanhood are always mutually exclusive, because I know women, especially if they are cisgendered women, that choose not to have children. I am one of those women that I am childless by choice. Have I thought about being a mother? At some point in time in my younger years, I actually thought, yes, I will be a mother. And it was because that is what I was socialized to think. I was socialized to yearn for those things, or I was socialized to sought out those things. And it became a part of this conversation that made me feel a little bit perplexed as to why so many people throughout my life would focus on just that small aspect of my person instead of expecting me to want to just live a full life as a human being. And what I mean by that is, no matter how many accomplishments I had, no matter I had achieved, no matter what good I did outside of my reproductive organs, it was always, so when are you going to have kids? When are you going to get married? And then I got married, and it was like, so when are y'all going to bring babies into the world? And I was like, well, one, the only person that should be asking me that is the person that's going to put the baby inside of me, and that would be my husband. If me and him have a understanding that that's not what we want to have as our family, then no one else should be asking me that. And I know that may sound harsh, because you have people that are invested in your life and they're like, oh, you're married now, you guys are going to have kids. The problem that I've experienced is when I say no, I don't want them. Now it's, well, what are you going to do when you get older? Or, how are you guys going to fill that house with love if you don't have kids? Well, in order for us to have kids, shouldn't love already be filled in the house? That would be my first question. But then the second thing is like, okay, well, if I tell you that I choose not to have kids, that should be the end of the discussion, period. There's no other, why should I? Well, don't you think you should? Or, are you scared? And the truth of the matter is, why is me having children offending you? Why is me not having children offending you? And what does children have to do with me as a woman? Because I actually have had people tell me that too. You won't feel like less of a woman if you don't have kids? I sure won't. My womanhood is not tied to the idea of me birthing children into this world. I'm a woman because I'm a woman. It is what it is. I'm a woman because that's how I present myself. That's how I walk through this world as. That is something that I carry with pride. And I've always carried with pride when I became of a particular age that my womanhood was something that I can carry on my own. When I was a child, a little girl, I didn't care about being a mom. And nobody questioned my girlhood because I was innocent little girl. However, as I became of a particular age, as I started to date, as I started to become a woman, a lot of people really focused on that aspect of my womanhood. When you get married and when you becoming a mom was questions I got continuously. And when I answered them in a way that wasn't socially acceptable, then people were like, well, what's wrong with her? Why she don't want to, have children? At one point before I met my husband, I was actually content without being married. I wanted to be married. I wanted to have that part of my life come to fruition, but I wasn't really like, if I don't get married, what type of woman will I be? Will I be this spinster of a woman and my life would not be fulfilled? I did not feel that way. I had amazing friends. I got to do amazing things. I accomplished a lot with my career. I was an amazing daughter, still am an amazing daughter, a good sister. I feel like there were so many other parts of my character and personality that should have been celebrated, even without me having a husband or a child at that particular time. And now that I am married and I love the dynamic between me and my husband, would a child make that dynamic better? I don't think it would make it better. It would just make it different. And I don't want that difference. But I don't think that should be an indicator of my womanhood. Now, I understand for those that choose to be mothers, and they may not be able to have children. That's also why this is a sensitive subject too, because you have women that are very intentional and thoughtful about that decision, meaning they have been actively pursuing a way to become a mother if they can't do it naturally. Do we take away their womanhood because they weren't naturally able to give birth to give birth to children? No, I know women who have adopted. I know women who have used surrogacy. I know women who have not birthed kids, but they are still mothers, but they are also very much still a woman. And so I think when we make women feel less than because they don't birth children or they don't have children, we don't necessarily understand all the nuances that come with that. I know people who tried very hard to get pregnant and they just weren't able to do so, and they don't have children because not by choice, but because of medical reasons, circumstances, and things of that nature. And that does not lessen their womanhood because they weren't able to produce an heir or produce a child. And I feel like because society-wise, we put so much pressure on women to do so, that it does make those women who want to have children feel a way about themselves. Like, what type of woman am I that I can't have kids? And it does play with their minds. And so I feel like if we would stop equating motherhood to this ultimate woman accomplishment, then it would take a little bit of pressure off a lot of women to say, okay, if I decide to have children, if I decide to become a mother, and first and foremost, I think the decision to be a mother should not be taken lightly. I feel like if you know in your hearts of hearts that you do not want kids, I don't care if your parents want you to have kids, I don't care if people say you would be a great mother or your kids would be so cute or you have so much love to give. And in your hearts of hearts, that is not the life that you want to live, because of course, being a parent, both a mother and a father, it is very, very taxing. Listen, I babysat. All of my 10 years, I was a babysitter. And as a babysitter, I was just like, I don't know who would sign up to do this all day, 24/7, 365. I know that y'all say it's a blessing. You get so much joy out of seeing your children grow and all of this jazz, but it's not for the faint of hearts either. Being a parent is a lot of work, and it's a lot of sacrificial work, and it's a lot of work that you don't get your return right away. As a child, I know I wasn't a bad child, but I was definitely I was nosy. I was a little rambunctious. I was definitely a questioning child. I had questions, comments, and concerns, you guys, even as a child. And my parents had to sacrifice a lot of themselves to raise me and my sister. And sometimes you just don't want to do that. And if I'm okay with admitting, I know I don't want to do it. I know people who don't want to do it. If that comes off selfish, then call me selfish Sally, because my mind just does not want to have to be responsible for another human being. And I don't think that makes me less of a woman. I think that makes me realistic for the type of life that I want to live. And I also feel like I know we as women sometimes feel the pressure to say, oh, I'm such a loving person. I should give birth to a child. I should become a mother. And we need to stop that too. We need to stop socializing little girls to only focus on motherhood and wifehood. And think about it, like when you were little, you got dolls, and you got kitchenette sets, you got all these things that were for domestication. You got all these things to set you up for being a good wife and mom. But what if you turned out to not like men? My nose is running or sweating, one of the two. What if you didn't really want kids? Like, what if you knew from an early age? I knew one of my cousins knew from an early age that she didn't want to do it. She was like 12 when she was like, I never want to be a mother. And she not. And she up there. If she became a mom, would I be shocked? Yes, I would be shocked if she actually turned up and said she was pregnant, because she has always said she just didn't want to do it. She had no desire to lend her body over for another human being to come into this world. That's exactly how she said. She was like, I don't want to lend my body over to another human being to come into this world and then have to make sure that person is this upstanding person when I'm still trying to figure stuff out myself. And that's real. And she's still a woman. She is very womanly, actually. So I don't really think that we should always put those things as exclusive to each other. I know that they are interconnected, because in order to be a mother, you would have to be, if you are birthing a child, you would have to have the womanly parts to do so. But I also feel like we should not make women feel less than if they are not top tier women if they do not become mothers for whatever reason, if it's by choice or if it's by medical reasons or other circumstances. We should let people make that choice from themselves. And then for those that do want to become a mother, I hope you are becoming a mother for reasons that will rear healthy and amazing human beings, because at the end of the day, the whole goal after you become a parent is to make sure that those little people become big people who are upstanding citizens. And that's not always the case too. Sometimes you can have the right intentions, but your child is going to be who your child is going to be, because they have their own personalities and their own they will have their own mindset about certain things. That's why I don't necessarily believe in parenting as a legacy. You know, I had amazing parents, and I know that my parents would be proud of me and my sister, or are proud of me and my sister, my remaining parent, which is my father. But I also don't think that should be my father's legacy or my mother's legacy. My mother passed away, and I can just about guarantee you when people talked about her at her funeral, they didn't talk about me and my sister. Tell you that her legacy wasn't, nobody said anything about me and my sister and how her being a great mother was her legacy. A lot of people discussed her as a woman, Pauline. Yes, we are a part of that story, but literally at her funeral, most people talked about how she didn't take no mess, how she had great integrity, how she was funny, how she was loving, but not loving to her kids. She was just a loving person. How she didn't throw no rock and hide her hand. Nothing about her homegoing service was, oh my goodness, you know, her legacy is her kids and her mothering was just so amazing, blah, 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 blah. My dad is the same thing. You know, yes, we are a visual representation of their union together, but if me and my sister were, let's say, not upstanding citizens, I'm pretty sure my dad wouldn't want people to know that they're my kids. The only reason he's proud to say those are my two girls is because we're actually pretty good daughters. We're actually pretty good humans. But I know some parents, they don't even like their kids. They're like, who did I raise? And some kids don't like their parents. So what legacy are you really leaving? Toxicity? So I just think that shouldn't be a reason you should have kids either. That's off on a tangent. That's talking about just having kids in general. I don't think saying, you know, what is your legacy going to be if you don't have kids? Trust and believe, I made my impression on the world without having a child. And when I pass away, I know people aren't going to talk about, oh my goodness, she didn't become a mother, so she doesn't have a legacy. No, my mark will be left because I live in my purpose. And a part of my purpose as a woman is to be authentic to me first. And then, you know, what God has, you know, first what God has for me, because I am a Christian, but the human part, me, if I don't want to do it, please don't ask me to do it. And if I tell you I'm not doing it, that should be enough. And I think we should allow women to say their choice out loud, be it I choose not to have kids, I want to have kids, I sometimes don't like having kids, because I know mothers who are like, listen, I love my children, but if I could do it over again, I may only have had one instead of four, you know. And so it's okay to allow women to have these conversations without judgment, is what I'm really trying to say. It's okay for women to be intentional about becoming a mother, and also being intentional about not becoming a mother, and not be judged either way, and not made to feel less than a woman because one choice doesn't speak to what society tells y'all. And I know our bodies biologically are designed to reproduce. I know that is what some people will say. Well, your body naturally wants to be a mother, but that's why you also are a person of not just nature, but you also have your mind, and you also have logics, and you also have more than just, because we are not just out here doing what the other animals do. Yes, we are animalistic, and a part of our sexual nature is animalistic, but you also have discernment and common sense, and you also have high intelligence, unlike some other animals that you just not going out there procreating. And let's keep it a buck. A lot of us are not having sex just to procreate. Most of us are having sexual intercourse because we want to feel the pleasure of it. If a kid do not come out of it, we are okay with still doing it. And so I think we should stop using that as a caveat too. But you're naturally supposed to be a mom. I'm naturally supposed to do what's in my best interest for my life. And that may come off a little bit, and I'm not even trying to be liberal or conservative, because a part of this conversation, I'm a little bit of both, depending on the nuances of this conversation. But I just wanted to come in and say, like, let's stop making women feel less than or pressured to do something that in their hearts of hearts they don't want to do or they're not ready to do. Give them the space, the opportunity, the discernment to figure out if that is something that they want for their life for the long haul, because you don't start being a parent once the child is 18. You are their mother until you are no longer alive, or if they're no longer alive. And that is a big responsibility to carry. And so for those people out there that want to be mothers and y'all are being intentional about that, y'all understand the hard work, the labor, the responsibility that comes with that, and that is something that you still choose to do. One, make sure that you are doing it because it's what you really want to do, and that you don't feel obligated to do it because society is telling you that's what a woman should do. But do it because in your hearts of hearts, you really want to give that type of love to someone. You really want to actually sit in that responsibility and that work. And that is something that you know will fulfill you. Also be intentional about that. Make sure you and your partner, who will be the father of your child, you guys have those conversations. How do you want to raise the children? What type of, birthing plans? I know that it's not all, you can't plan everything, but at least have that type of intentionality of, what type of mother you want to be. If you by chance happen to become a mother and you did not do it intentionally, I hope you have a support system. I hope that you have the resources and tools to be a good mother to your children. I hope that you have a good partner to be a good mother to your children with, or at least a good community, because I think we talk about the two-parent household and how important that is, and I for one grew up in a nuclear household, but my parents were good parents because they also had community. They just didn't have each other. They had my next door neighbors, the people across the street, my aunts, my uncles, church members. I grew up with a lot of mothers and fathers, not just my biological mother and father. And also for the women who can't have children for whatever reason, but you do want them, I understand the pain that comes from maybe not being able to birth children. And so because of, miscarriages or PCOS or other conditions, or even age, you may have gotten to the point where you would be considered a high-risk pregnancy, or a pregnancy that wouldn't come into fruition. So you choose to not have kids because of, age-related things, but you still desire that. One, grieve that idea that you may not be a mother naturally, but hopefully you will find a way to utilize those nurturing skills and mother or mentor in a way that does fulfill you, if that is so what you so desire. And then to the women that choose to not have kids, it's okay for you to choose that. If you know that you don't want to have children and you know that that is not a part of your story, you are still a woman. You are enough in this world. Your purpose is still to be amazing in this world, you still hold some value in this society. And live your best life. You know, if you're not spending money on kids, go on that trip. You know, get that extra outfit, buy your house, you know, do what you dream of doing. And if you are married, hopefully you and your husband are on the same accord and you guys both don't want kids. And then if that's the case, enjoy each other. You know, if you are single or married, just enjoy your life, because kids, yes, they are a blessing. They can be an amazing addition, but they don't necessarily make up who you are as a woman, as a whole. And that's the message that I want to leave today, is that motherhood does not make you the upper echelon of womanhood. It just makes you a mother. That's one of the titles that you happen to carry. And if you do carry that title, then I hope that you are doing the best that you can. And I hope that you get the support that you need and all the things that come with being a great mother, if that's what you choose to do. So that is all. Once again, like, comment, subscribe, share. Put the comments below. Do you guys think that motherhood and womanhood are exclusive? Do you feel like you have at one point questioned a woman who wasn't a mother, or why she wasn't a mother, and did you feel like mothers have a superior level of womanhood because they are mothers? Or is it just they have a different perspective into womanhood because they are a mother? Doesn't make them more or less than a woman, but they do have a different type of perspective into womanhood because they are a mother. Leave your comments below on that particular type of question, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.